Isn't that so awesome how this camera is a piece of crap and keeps sucking down batteries? It's less energy efficient than an SUV. I was going to make a bigger joke out of that, but I didn't. Pardon. Okay, so basically, what I was saying... Okay, was that, well, he mainly had philosophical arguments against anti-homosexuality and the Christian view. And that's another issue I want to talk about. You see, again, I have looked at the responses that I've gotten on YouTube, and I mean to take a look at them all. I am Dave Crisp. I think we got into a debate, like, via private messaging, and somehow they got dropped. YouTube screwed my messages. If you want to send me a new letter or something like that, yeah, you know, whatever. It's not like I'm ignoring you. But basically, it's like, so far, all the atheists have got is the same thing. It's philosophical arguments against God. I'm like, philosophy is dandy. Really, I love philosophy. I've studied all sorts of, different mindsets and ideologies, but philosophy is dandy, but evidence is quicker. It's, let me alter that saying, so basically, the same way that I attack the problem of faith or not faith in God, using historical evidence and logic as a viewpoint, and chance and probability, I will do the same thing with this debate using the Bible. Now, there are a couple of mentionings of why it is homosexuality is a sin in the Bible. I think the majority of them are in the, well, it's about equal in First and Second Testament. The thing that you have to understand is that all of the commandments in the First Testament can pretty much be considered null and void. The First Testament and the Tanakh, the Tanakh is the First Testament, the Torah has the 615 mitzvah, a whole bunch of rules that the Jews had to follow, That is the law, the Torah, the law. But it's the 615 commandments. There's one in there about not wearing, like, polyester. It says, do not wear two types of, material in your clothing. So, if that's true, I'm a sinner right now. It is just as detestable for me to wear this clothing as it is for me to lie with another man. The point is that a lot of people kind of skip over this, and it's a really difficult verse. I won't even try to quote it directly for you, but I have done research on it. There's a verse where the Pharisees came unto Jesus and they said, well, are you here to destroy the law, or are you here just to completely get rid of the old faith? And Jesus said, I am not here to destroy the law, but to render it, and I think this is like the roughest translation. This is in English, but I won't even proclaim that this is the absolute truth. If you want to combat this, and you're allowed to. He said, I am here to, and I believe he says, here to leave the law null and void, and it will be left null and void when I am dead. Basically, when I have, when Christ had sacrificed himself, the old law was gone, the new covenant is here. We have a new covenant now. And basically, it's more of a spirit of Christianity of, peace and love thy brother, don't be a dick. And, of course, to back that up, there was a bit, I think, where Peter is having a vision from God, and he sees all the foodstuffs laid out for him, and it's like, some of it is not kosher, and he says, well, God, I won't eat that because it's not kosher. And God says, no, you can eat it all. He says, do not call it unclean if it has come from my earth. Now it's all good to eat. And I believe there was around the time, again, here's backing up with sociology, around the time there was a sect of Christianity that was Jewish, that was keeping the 615 mitzvah, the rules of the Torah, but was also accepting the forgiveness of Christ. And I think Christian teachers actually came under them and said, you can't do that. I believe there's actually a quote in the Bible where it says, if you are lukewarm, I will spit you out. You have to choose your side. He says you cannot worship the old law and have the new law. The new law is just so much simpler. I mean, God is like literally just saying, why go through the trouble of doing all that when you could just do this? But basically, I think one of the biggest quotes against homosexuality is in Romans. Now again, we're talking about the Romans, who were sick motherfuckers. The Romans were much, again, like the Nazis of the Americans. They were very, very much, they were fascists, they were imperialist dogs. They crucified people to keep them terrified. They fed Christians to lions. They were sick, and then they would eat till they threw up. They were, decadent. They were wrong in almost every sense. They were an evil empire. Ever play Final Fantasy? Basically, that's what they are. So basically, the biggest quote was Paul. Paul wrote this, and he was writing a letter to Romans about Romans. And where's the first bit? Here we go. Uh-oh. It's not in the same place as my Bible. Great. Crap. Now I wish I had it. I thought it has to be. It's chapter 1. Oh, we're in chapter 2. Oops. Chapter 1. Here we go. Therefore God gave them over to sinful desires of their hearts, to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie. They worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. Because of this, God gave them over to shameful lusts. Even their women exchanged natural relations for unnatural ones, in the same way that men also abandoned natural relations for women and were inflamed with lust for one another. Men committed indecent acts with other men and received for themselves the due penalty for their perversion. Okay. That was a long quote from the Bible, basically talking about, and many people interpret that as anti-homosexuality, because the Romans were evil, and they're saying, look here, the Romans are practicing homosexuality, and Paul is saying, no. But they have to look at the original translation of the text. Originally, that would only read in the Pentateuch, the Greek, it would say something like, and the Romans are so bad because they're evil, and they murder people, and they practice porneia. That's the word, porneia, from which we get the root word porn from, or pornographic, and that's what it just originally said. But that word is so rough to translate, when we were first translating into English in temples in the year 1000 or whatever, no, probably more than that, I don't know, whatever. Whenever, the English got around to translating it, the New King James Version had he had the temple priests translate it, and as it originally stood, they're like, well, okay, so Om Dehera Baraba translates to this, and this, and porneia. What does that mean? And our modern day reveals to us that porneia, what they were saying is basically sexual misconduct. My Bible is a closer translation than New King James Version, but basically, sexual misconduct could have been referring to three things. Here's where we have to look at the sociology. We have to look at the time period and what they were talking about. They were talking about the Romans. The Romans had 6 sexual practices because, again, they were sick motherfuckers. The Romans would do 3 things which are basically could pertain to porneia. 1, they had massive gay orgies at Roman temples to worship like Mars or other pagan gods. Like it says, they turned away from God, who is the one true God, so therefore having gay man sex a lot in massive amounts anonymously to worship a pagan god is obviously wrong. So we don't like that. 2, the Roman senators used to keep little slave sex boys with them, like little 12-year-olds that they would sexually abuse while they were in the in the forums listening to political debate, listening to excuse me, political speeches. So that's also messed up severely. And number 3 was that, and this is going to horrify you. If you have a weak stomach, you may want to hold your ears. The Romans, to terrify their victims, would not only crucify them and throw them to lions and shit, they would also sodomize them. They would gang rape them, like we do in our American prisons, to instill fear in them, and that's obviously also sick, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. So, really, the truth is that does not translate to we don't like gays. That translates to we don't like weird, freaky gays. And then again, it comes back to what is the spirit of Christianity. God, I think, the Christian religion classically does not want to be, what's the word, legalist. It does not want to, it's a religion, it's alive. It doesn't want to have set rules. That's why that's why Christ was like, well, the old law is dead. The new law is just, basically they asked him, teacher, what are the greatest of your 2 commandments? And he said, love thy God and love thy brother. There you go, that's it. And, and the spirit of Christianity is, what is good and what's bad is bad. I mean, C.S. Lewis said, if it brings you pleasure, if it brings you happiness, it must be good. So, it says, unless it impedes on someone else's rights or happiness. So, I don't see that God, it doesn't fit the description of Christ or Christianity, that Christ would come down and say, hey everybody, love and joy and happiness and free forgiveness all around, but I hate gays. Like, where did that come from? Everyone's great, we love everybody, you're all sinful, but I forgive all you, just not gays. Where does that come out? So, in my professional opinion, if you really want to know what I believe about homosexuality in the Bible, if you're gay, be gay. If you feel attraction for another man and you want to be in love with a guy, or you're a woman, you want to be in love with a woman, that's fine. I would suggest not practicing porneia, i.e. child pedophilia,